So, hi everybody. Thank you so much to join the show. Today we have our special guest, Miss Julie. Hello, Julie.
Hello,
How are you
Julie.
doing?
I'm good, Vivian. How are you?
We're doing wonderful and so glad to see you and connect with you virtually. And
Yeah, it's
our
great to
Inside
see you as
Sharing
well.
show, yeah, yes. And Inside Sharing show is all features about our guests and their story. To start off, would you please introduce a bit about yourself, Miss Julie?
Sure. My name is Julie Ellis, and recently I wrote a book that was released in June called Big Gorgeous Goals. And that book is really about it was an examination of why some women are able to achieve really big things. And what is it about achieving big things that are common amongst people? And what do we need to do in order to be able to do that? Because it's sort of like the highlight reel of people's lives, right? You see them doing really big things, but you don't actually see the sort of all the hard work and the people that support them and the systems and the processes they use to go there. So and that was really based on my story of co-founding a business called Mabel's Labels. We make personalized name labels for kids, and they go through the dishwasher and the microwave. They're UV resistant, super durable. So all of the kids' belongings will come back home. And we started the business in a basement and grew it to about 40 people. And one day, Avery Labels phoned us and asked us if we'd ever considered selling our business. And although the business wasn't for sale at the day they called us, we did end up selling the business to them. And for me, that sort of started a journey where I ended up leaving from Mabel's Labels and going out into the world. And, I always kind of thought I was going to be one of those founders who, visited the office all the time after I left and retired and like took over a boardroom, drank coffee and talked about the old days with everybody. And instead what happened was, I left and it started a period in my life where I was very uncertain and I didn't know what to do next. And so, that journey of going back to my big goals and what I wanted to do next, and of also resting and figuring out. So, a couple of things happened, right? We've been building a business and climbing for a really long time. And it's totally normal when you reach that pinnacle that you have to rest on a plateau for a while, right? But I didn't want to sit on a plateau. I didn't know what to do with sitting on that plateau. And I didn't know how it would be okay to feel sad about what I had lost in selling the business, yet show gratitude for what is every entrepreneur's dream, right? It is the entrepreneurial dream to found, grow, and sell your business. And so I didn't want to look ungrateful for that because I was very grateful for the opportunity, but I was incredibly sad.
Wow.
And so the book came kind of out of that time and that experience as I found my way out and back to sort of the big, gorgeous goals that had served me so well.
Wow. So the book is the way that you show the people your stories through the up and down, and if anybody reading the book, and then if they're entrepreneur, they start up their own business or whatever they do it, and then they can share the feelings, they can share the journey that you've been through, right? We are going to examine that together at a later time in this conversation. For the time being,
Right.
please allow us to say congratulations for all the amazing achievements.
Thank you.
A lot of the people, like you say, a lot of people, we only see the top of the mountain, but they will never see how like how a person walked their way getting to up there. So today is all
Yeah.
about us figuring that out, right? Uh,
Right. Yes.
First, Julie, let's travel time, right? Let's travel to when we were young. When I was young, I wanted to be an astronaut. Life did not give me that opportunity. Vivian, she wanted to be a singer. She sings really well, but life also didn't give her the opportunity to be a singer on the stage and perform. So when you were young, Julie, what did you dream about your future self?
I dreamed of being on the stage in some way.
Oh.
Definitely. That was part of the dreams I had as a young person. And in some ways, it happened, although not probably in the way I imagined it. In that, like, I now deliver workshops and I deliver talks. And, as an entrepreneur, we were fortunate enough to win some entrepreneur awards. And so, in some ways it's happened, although it definitely isn't in the way I would have imagined it.
Will you ever imagine that you're gonna start a company, you're gonna build a company from scratch up and got people interested to buy your company and was that anything like that happen when you in your head when you was young?
No, neither of my parents were entrepreneurs. It wasn't something that I grew up thinking I would have my own business.
Mm.
I had a really eclectic path that got me to becoming an entrepreneur.
Mm.
And so it is interesting. I mean, now, of course, I couldn't imagine working for anybody else. And that was the big, aha moment for me as I wanted to get off the plateau I was sitting on, was that I needed to go out and build something that I felt, fulfilled what was within me. And so that's really where Big Gorgeous Goals, has come from.
Wow. Tell us how's your journey started and after you and from the beginning.
Right. Well, as a kid, we moved around a little bit, but once we kind of landed somewhere that I grew up most of my life, I as a child, took dance lessons in the studio and worked hard, but was never the most talented kid in the room. But when it came time for me to go to university, I decided to take a major in dance.
Oh.
And so originally when I went, I chose the school I went to, University of Waterloo, because there was a joint program where you would come out with a very high level teaching credential. And so that's the path I thought I was on and that I, thought I was chasing. And so I started down that path. And once I got into later years of my schooling, I had an injury that meant it would be very hard for me to continue down that path. And so, that was the first big sort of crossroads of what now? And so I had been working for a bank while I went through school in customer service, and they offered me a post on a management training program after I graduated from university. And so I went into banking. And from there, I became a licensed financial planner and, went down that path for about 10 years, more than 10 years. And at the end of that 10 years, I had a couple of kids, and a couple of friends of mine and I were looking to step out of the sort of corporate world, from the full-time employment world, and we had an idea for a product. And so started the business in 2003, and I worked at both for a good period of time before, it became not manageable.
Wow. So normally the people in the financial planning space, they've been there for 10 years, so they build reputations already. Business come to them automatically and stuff like that, right? And you've been there for 10 years, then you decided to join force with your friends to start all over again in something totally new
Yep.
out of the widening space. It's very brave of you. You know, Vivian and I had have a lot of executive friends, and by their retiring time, there's two things in common that they told us. First is they could have started their own business earlier, but they did not do that. Second is they could have written a book and share their story with the world, and they yet doing that also. You do them both. You do them very successful. Tell us back in that time, 2003 was it?
Yes, that we started the business. It
Yeah,
was.
and I remember that 2003 was a very good economic time also everywhere. So where did you find the strength and the courageous to a few pair a friend of yours to sit together and decided to do something out of the basement to start the business that later on you sell to other bigger companies, so
I think we really saw a need for product in the market.
ah
And that was really the driving force for us. And we believed in ourselves that we could create something that other people would want.
mm,
And so we got started. And I mean, we started in the days where, you know, doing e-commerce was it was early days of that. Taking credit cards on the internet was still, kind of it was me. People didn't want to support you in your business. And there was no social media. Instagram didn't exist. Facebook didn't exist. None of the social media platforms exist. So our start came from standing at the park, standing at the playground, standing at the soccer field, standing at the gymnastics club, and talking to other moms about products we liked. And that's really how the word started to spread about Mabel's Labels.
wow.
And so, then when we could take those conversations online and join social media platforms, we were already used to having really normal conversations with moms. And so we continued to do that in the online space. And we were very quickly able to build a very large social media following.
Wow.
And we were also strategic in the early days, strategic and fortunate in that we got some press coverage, and small coverage led to bigger press coverage, which led to bigger press coverage, which led to the labels being featured on The View. And one of the hosts at the time, Elizabeth Hasselbeck, stood in front of our labels and said, "I could not live without these."
Ah.
And that was, then we had a 24-hour sales period that was the biggest we'd ever had in the company.
Wow.
And so, we had this snowball that was rolling downhill and getting bigger and bigger. And I think, for me, from a personal standpoint, I worked for a large financial institution and when we started the business, and I felt ambitious about what I wanted for my career. And having young children didn't seem to fit with that corporate structure. I lived in the suburbs. I'd have to travel an hour each way to the city every day if I wanted to move up the ladder. And so entrepreneurship seemed like a good opportunity for me to create what I wanted out of my career.
Well, my mentor told me before, opportunity, goes in front of our eyes every moment, right? It's
Yes.
us whether or not we have the ability to catch it, make a difference, right? So
Yes.
back in 2003, you and your friends saw the opportunity. Can you tell us the secret that you and your friend were able to see such ideas to be in, commercialable and went all in for that?
Well, we were sending our kids to places that said, "Please label everything."
Mm.
Right? So send a spare outfit, send their snack, their lunch, their bottle, their sippy cup, like all of the things that toddlers have. And, daycare or preschool would say, "Please label everything." And so we would say, "Well, how do you label a bottle or a sippy cup? What do you recommend?" And the answer was, some masking tape and a Sharpie. And so, put masking tape on the bottle, use a permanent marker and write their name. And It'll come off after 2 or 3 dishwasher cycles and you'll do it again. And we thought we could do something better than that. And so we began experimenting with what was out there and what we could do. And, ultimately we were the first company to market in North America with this product.
Wow, amazing. Just started with, feeding your need first, right?
Yeah, that's one thing that always fascinates me about entrepreneurs is like how is it that we see a need in the world and that sends us down a path of starting a business and creating a product or a service or like a product or a service or an app or all of those kinds of things. I think that's really fascinating.
And then earlier you say about when the business keep growing, and get to the plateau stage, and that is where you couldn't stand at that stage of the business, and you want to hit something bigger and better. Tell us how that moment happened to you, though.
Well, some of it happened because the business just started growing quickly. And, I was still working full time and had 2 small kids, pregnant with the third. And it really came down to a place where like I couldn't actually do everything I was doing anymore. So the business needed us. And then we had to wrestle with, can it pay us? Because, if you're going to leave your job, that's a big leap, isn't it? And so, how do you get to like actually where the business is going to pay us so that we can invest the time it needs in order for it to keep growing?
Wow. And Julie, when you got the offer of selling the business, normally that is a lot of business. Owner try to build, operate, and transfer, but build, operate, and transfer, and it's like it's hard to see a business that keep growing from the basement up. It's something like a baby that we have, right? So that would be definitely a lot of emotional happen at that stage. So how did you guys talk to one another to come up with to get to the agreement to sell the business and go into the next stage?
We had been kind of looking at, so as much as the business wasn't for sale, they called it a great time because we were really looking at what the next era of growing the business looked like and what kind of leadership would be needed, what contribution we all wanted to make. Like we were in a very like strategic mindset when that call came. And when the giant in your industry calls you, it's worth a conversation. And so we thought, okay, well, let's have a conversation. So we began talking, and it kind of it checked a bunch of boxes for us. And so we continued the conversation. Every time we'd meet, it would be like, okay, let's talk about this now. Okay. And, so we continued down the path, and there really wasn't a lot of time to talk about that emotional journey. Because it happened so quickly that the amount of work that came down the pipe to us was a lot. And so it was really head down, furious pace. Can we actually get this done? Because, they phoned in July. Our first conversation officially was in August, and we closed the deal by the end of December. So that is not a lot of time to really conduct due diligence, provide all the due diligence information. Due diligence is a lot of work. And so, we were head down working to sell the business.
Wow. And since we're in between from that stage up until now, where in between that did you start to write the book, The Big Gorgeous Goals?
So it took me a while to start writing the book. I would say that in 2019, I was invited to work in a women's accelerator program. And I was invited as the growth mentor. And part of that was doing workshop and learning circles for the women who were involved in the program. And it's called Beyond Boundaries. We are still doing Beyond Boundaries. We're actually looking at a new cohort of women entrepreneurs for the new year in 2023. And so that's where the workshop first came together. I built this workshop, I delivered it, and that's where I started telling the story of, after we sold the business, I was paralyzed by the grief that I felt and my inability to wrestle with the gratitude piece. And so what happened was, because I didn't know how to express my grief without looking ungrateful, I folded in on myself. And I started talking about that. And people came to me after and said that meant so much to us. And so, then you're sort of like, okay, I need to start telling this story. So I had the workshop that I began in the accelerator program, and I took that out into the world then. And from there, I went to begin some public speaking training. And the public speaking training, I wrote a keynote about the topic. Why We All Need to Think Big was the original name of that keynote. And that keynote, then when the keynote was done, I had the very distinct feeling that there was more to this. And so I went into a sort of, I thought there was a book. I backed into a book is what I like to say. So I thought there was a book in the work, and I started looking at it, writing an outline, started working on what are some of the stories I'd want to tell in that book. And, by November of 2020, I kind of fleshed that out. And then I had met through the public speaking training I did, I'd met somebody, her name is AJ Harper, and she has an authors club. And I joined her daily writing group, and I started writing the book in seriousness. Every day. I showed up every single day and wrote for an hour. And at the end of May 29th, 2021, I submitted my manuscript to my publisher.
Wow.
Yeah, very fun. Yeah, Julie, I'm curious. Some people setting smaller goals so easily to achieve and give them a motivation, and some is setting big goal, and yours like big gorgeous. So in your definition, how big is big gorgeous, Julie?
Well, I think it's different for everyone because, everyone's starting point is different. But I think it's about the goal that you feel like you don't have all the ingredients to do it. So maybe you don't have the money that you need, you don't have the expertise that you need, you don't have the connections that you need, you don't have the infrastructure that you need. Like there's a missing ingredient. And so therefore you feel a little bit like you have no business wanting it. It's a little bit like you guys telling me what you wanted to be when you grew up as kids, but as kids somehow we don't frighten. You want to be an astronaut. I'm not afraid of that. We don't get frightened by those dreams, right? The other thing I think that where it relates to that on some level is you're not an astronaut today. So it's not a big, gorgeous goal to me is not a destination. It is a journey to something big, magnificent, something magnificent that we need to fulfill who we are. And so, that journey is also about you're going somewhere really big. It might be here where you think it is, but it might be over here. And so over time, you need the small pieces, the small bite-sized pieces or goals that help you get there. And you need to, you're walking up the mountain, you can't look at the top all the time because it looks really far away, right? So you look up and it still looks really far away, but you can look behind you and see where you've come from. And when you look and see where you've come from, you realize you're making a lot of progress. But sometimes you need to recalibrate a little bit how you're getting to the top. And so that's where I think, it is a process. And depending on, the kind of goal you set, it can take weeks, months, or years to get there.
Julie, so if that's the case, many of us, like plays really play safe, right? So we're afraid
Yes.
of something big. We're afraid of something, even though we know that big goals, if we can achieve, can give us really beautiful things in life. But because of play safe, if something happen in our nature,
Yeah.
it's really hard for us to push the boundaries like the program that you guys are doing, right? If I want to set goals that big and gorgeous, what questions should I and Vivian asking each other so that we can, push the boundary and start to set our
Yeah.
goals bigger, more gorgeous?
Yeah. Well, I think it's about letting down the boundaries of, what makes you feel safe.
Mm.
So, do I feel a little bit scared about this goal? Do I feel a lot scared about this goal? Do I know how to start? And so, I think it's that piece of, or do I know, how do I like leverage the people I know? How do I leverage the things I know? How do I leverage the team I have
Mm.
into new territory? And so it's sort of like one of the things I think you need to also do to set these kinds of big, gorgeous goals is around, clearing space in your life, in your calendar. You do have to say no to other things to be able to like have the brain space to think
Mm.
about these kinds of goals.
Wow. So it seems that the book that you are writing is for everybody, not just for women alone, right?
Well, and so yeah, so I wrote the book for women because I think that um, because of the way society is constructed, we are more hesitant because of all the roles we play in our lives. We're a little more hesitant to step out. We have an internal chatter that is stronger.
Mm.
Um, but I recognize that this book is useful widely, and I've been told that by many men who have read the book.
Hey, Julie, I have two last questions for our conversation today, unless Vivian have any other question to add in. Um, and the first question is about thinking because Vivian and I are very fascinating about this topic. Um, we have the belief that our ability to think these days is diminishing, not increasing. So we've been
Yeah.
interviewing a lot of people and asking, how they think and how they've been helping themselves to grow their ability to think. So that very same question we're gonna ask you, Julie. How have you been helping yourself to expand the ability to think?
I think it's some of it is tied to doing less so you can do more.
Doing
And,
less for.
and by that I mean, we wear our busy badge, right? Oh, I'm so busy. My calendar is so full. I'm doing, but in truth, you can't dream and imagine big things without having space to do that. So, I think you have to, on some level, we have to do less, the things that keep us busy, so that we can do more at a bigger level.
Hmm.
And, I think that that's a really important thing for us all to think about as we, stuff our calendars full of everything and don't want to say no to many things.
Wow, that's a very powerful question. I will remind my ex CEO for that because every chance that he told me that show me the calendar. Your calendar says a lot about your productivity. So we try to put our calendar packed with a lot of things. Now I will tell him the next time I talk to him. I say, Julie, Ellis, tell me that we need to erase our calendar for all the small little things that wear our days in, so we can concentrate for bigger things. Right?
Well, so that's one of the interesting things, though, about like in the UK particularly, but a lot of businesses are experimenting with a 4-day work week. And it's not the same hours over 4 days, right? It's 80% of the hours, 100% of the deliverables. And if that's possible, and it seems to be possible, companies are reporting success with this program. So if that's possible, then it's possible for you to create space in your calendar and not lose being productive.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's being thoughtful about the things that you're doing and letting in, and the things you shouldn't be spending time on.
Yep. I'm a big believer in that one. I believe that Vivian also a big believer in that way also. And sometimes we joke around. We put we label it as procrastinations, but indeed it's not.
Yes.
We're trying to make the best out of our time. So.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah, Julie, I will go to my last question. So we knew you from the beginning, and then we knew all the works that you've been amazingly with your friend, build up an empire at the basement, and went through all the emotion of building it up and selling it, and went in empty, trying to figure out the path again, and write a book to share the stories to inspire not only women, it's inspire everybody. All right. And we want to go into the future a little bit, Julie. um, is there anything that you are working on that exciting and you want to share with me, with Vivian, and the audience of the show, so together we can celebrate with you in advance?
I'm working on getting the message out to the world has been a big focus of my work this year. And as I, sit kind of poised to go into 2023, I'm working on some group coaching programs around big, gorgeous goals and how to really step and lean into that magnificence that everybody deserves to.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that, Julie. I'd say that I have two last questions, but I would like to have just one bonus one, okay? Because
Of
I'm a big
course.
believer in connecting the dots. All right. So you want to be on stage when you was young. Now you're on stage and do a different performance. Um, would you be able to do it for us the next time after you deliver the speech? Would you dance together with the people there on the stage?
Yes,
Abs-
definitely.
Alrighty. So when you do that, please let the people know that there's two little people from Vietnam named Vivian and Ha, and they want you to live your dream from your when you were young up until whatever you're doing now. So make sure if you love dance and then you own the stage, you can always do this, own the stage and dance. All right.
Definitely. Definitely. Thank you.
Hey, Julie, thanks a lot for joining our program, and it's a great honor for Vivian and I to meeting you, to knowing you, and to having you joining us and sharing your stories. We would love to see you in person one day. If you travel to this part of the world, please let us know. And you have a new friends here, you have new family that welcome you guys. All right.
Okay, I will definitely let you know. Thank you, Ha. Thank you, Vivian.
Thank you very much. We wish you
Thank
all
you.
the best. We wish you all the result that you need, so you can get your message across as many people as possible and have bigger impact on the words that you do to the many people you can touch. Okay?
That's great. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best as well.
Thank you. Have a
You
wonderful
too.
day. Enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, you too.
Bye, Julie. Thanks, Vivian, too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank